So thank you all for being here. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching it and taking part as part of the user groups, both the WAG and the International Informix user group. If you want to get involved with the WAG, at least for right now, we're keeping things virtual. If you have thoughts on whether we should do back in person versus staying virtual, please reach out and contact us. So also wanted to thank in particular Rhonda, who's is our vice president, doing a lot of legwork making this happen, and Lester with the IIUG for getting all of us set up, helping promote it, and everything else he does for us. So thank you all for being here. For those of you that may not, I imagine most people on here are familiar with the International Informix user group. If not, highly recommend checking them out. IIUG.org has been around a very long time, does a huge amount of work for the Informix community as a whole. There's a ton of great resources on the website. So if you're not already involved with them, definitely check them out. So I am the president of the Washington Area Informix User Group. We've also been around for quite a while. With everything going on, we have moved all of our meetings to virtual. We try to do about 2 meetings a year, normally in this kind of format where we do about a half day with a few different presenters, some user presenters, some from IBM or HCL. Uh, if there is something you would be interested in us trying to get a particular presentation on, feel free to reach out. On the same token, if you are a user speaker or user in general and would like to do a topic, please reach out. We'd love to get more people involved. The IIUG also has a web series that they have been putting out, more information for monthly, every other month. So if you check out IEG.org, there's more for that. And the WAG is WAIUG.org. I'll have a little slide up at the end just with the links handy. So today our agenda, you're hearing me speak right now is the welcome. We're going to go into the Informix roadmap. So this is where Informix currently is at, where's it going, all the good stuff. Get the latest updates there. Stuart is going to talk about the Informix 14 certification exam, what you need to know about that. Then we're going into the user speakers, where Mike Walker is going to go into a fair amount of depth on getting going with auditing on Informix, and then Paul Watson is doing a fairly in-depth talk on actually getting going with change data capture. So that should be a really interesting talk. It was one personally I've been looking forward to. So because at any rate, we're going to go ahead and get started with the roadmap. Are you ready to go? Let me give access.
Good morning, everyone. And this is Shripad Sonavnay. I'm joining from Boston. I'm traveling for work this week, but super excited to be here, meet everyone. Albeit it is virtual, but it is what it is. But super happy to attend my first Washington UG presentation and getting a chance to present to you all regarding the roadmap. And Tom, if I'm ready to go, if it's okay, I can share my screen.
Please do. You should be ready to get all set.
Thank you. All right. So what I hope to achieve today, the purpose of taking you all through the roadmap is really, the agenda that I've set up is talk about a little bit about the market trends that we've been seeing over the past couple of years and how we are responding via the strategy that IBM has set overall. I definitely want to do a quick recap of Informix releases. Informix has been around for a longer time, as you already know, and I don't need to sell you that. Or you are passionate users, and I'm happy to be a part of this family. But just wanted to quickly do a recap. It's always good to look back and see some of the good things that we've achieved over the years. So going to do a recap quickly, beginning from the 2000s, and then these are not going to be multiple slides. This is going to be one slide, but it kind of captures the essence of it. Starting from 2000s until now, and then also what we're looking at in terms of future. I want to spend a little bit of time on the 2022 plus roadmap. So it's just talking about what some of the things that we've worked on already and delivered earlier this year, something that we are planning for mid this year, and how are things looking for the end of this year, as well as going into the next one. Informix 14.10, which is our latest and greatest version out there. So we have 12.10 and 14.10. 12.10 was released, as you know, way back in 2013, but then in 2019, we also came up with 14.10. And one of the things that we would love is for customers to experience 14.10, if they are running any older versions, that if that's 11.7, even 11.5, 12.10, there's benefits to move to 14.10 and enjoy some of the key benefits that we've and improvements that we've baked into it. So I quickly want to do spend briefly some time on what we worked on for 14.10, and then definitely touch upon in terms of vNext that we are looking at for early next year. What are some of the themes and how we've come up with those? And then finally, modernization overall, right? And Informix on Cloud Pak for data kind of focuses on that. So hopefully, it's a rich agenda, and hopefully everyone takes something from this session. Um, Let's start us off with the market trends and how we are responding. So the bottom of the slide is where we have kind of broken down some of the key highlights, right? As we already know, and this is not something that's new, but definitely something that's happening at an accelerated pace, I'm sorry, is the growth of data. And not just the sheer volume of it, but also the different kinds of data that we are experiencing today. Be that structured, and mostly now where all of us as end users are focused on is how to make the most of unstructured data as well. And then if it's going to be a hybrid mix, right? It's going to be structured data, and then it's going to be unstructured data, but how do you kind of combine both those and make sense of it? But in terms of the trends itself, both of these are growing continuously. It's one of the insights that IDC came up with is you're going to have much more data in just the next 3 years as you had in the past 30. So that just goes on to speak about the sheer volume and the sheer nature of the growth that we're looking at. Within this with this growth is obviously it's no brainer that because of this growth in data, there's a an extended focus on the database market itself, more expectations on the market in terms of what vendors can provide. The so it's not a surprise that the market itself has had its best growth in the past couple of years. So in 2018, that's one of the significant ones that they saw is about 18%. And especially in the world of cloud, that is something where majority of the growth is, and it's obviously a natural flow into the ways customers are looking at moving to the cloud or running in a hybrid environment. Um, Having said that, on-prem is still something that's a majority share. So it's not going to be a overnight change in terms of going from on-prem to cloud. The fact is, it's going to be a hybrid world as much as we want everything to go to the cloud. It's going to be a hybrid world, and there are some reasons for that, which are very valid reasons. But the net of it is, you still have on-prem that's not going away. So we have to look at, how do we successfully cater to that hybrid environment. And then open source. So we have obviously the proprietary vendors who've been in the market, but in open source as well is where again it brings in its benefits of providing innovation, having more control in terms of what you can do, um, all of those good things that come along with open source. That's also something that is increasingly pervasive. So we have to deal and make sure that everything of that works in harmony. But with all these trends, essentially, what we as IBM and as an IBM team is focused on is we understand these trends. Arvind Krishna, who's our CEO, has been on the IUG before, and he's a very strong proponent and very invested in Informix. But overall, with these trends, he's also focused on um, looking at how do we deal with this hybrid world. So we are basically readying our strategy and our products to be focused on these trends, making sure that we are able to cater successfully to where clients are going, and looking on what kind of usage that they have, and so that our product strategy overall is aligned um, to that usage. So that's a quick recap on a quick, sorry, overview of the trends and how we are responding as a company. With Informix itself, as I said, Arvind himself is actively invested in making sure that in addition to all the other IBM products, Informix is a key product for us, and we are continuing to invest and make sure that one is we continuously deliver what's good with the product and customers love, but at the same time also look at kind of collaborating with customers to understand what is it that they want to see in the product in terms of new additions or things that they would like to be seeing improvements on existing functionalities. So with that, that's where our heads at in terms of looking at how we are developing Informix in the future as well. But as I said, like always helps to look at some of the good things that we've already done. So starting back from 2000s, where we were kind of the first ones to look at multi-core processing, to look at replication, bring in multiple multimodal data and dealing with multiple data types to set time series and spatial. With 12.10, we kind of looked at focusing further on how do we leverage all the good autonomics that the database has built in, to also focus on the embedded use cases. Cisco being a great example, there's a very strong partnership with Cisco today, where they're using Informix everywhere, almost the IP phones, the WebEx, in fact, is everywhere is when Informix is running. And they what they like about the product is the autonomous nature of it is once you install it, it has the product itself has the built-in mechanics to make sure that it's running successfully with minimal intervention, and that's what they like of it. So our heads are also focused on how do we grow and how do we do much more better on the embedded use case overall. um, in 2019, we introduced 14.10. There've been improvements across the board. Talk about performance improvements, security, Informix HQ, making it easier and much more user friendly, and overall focus on enhancements from an administration and usability perspective as well. There's a whole together a separate document. Everyone knows Carlton Doe, and Scott Pickett is also on with us on the call today. But they've built an extensive document that focuses on the different improvements. If there needs to be a technical session as a follow up to this, we definitely can do that. But it focuses on all different kinds of functionalities from a technical perspective and enhancements that we've built uh, in 14.10. Um, with 2021, modernization is a big piece of it. So as you know, IBM has the Cloud Pak for data, which is one of our strengths in terms of the data platform we provide for customers to make sure that they're able to leverage the platform itself to deal with the multiple data sets that they're dealing with in the environment today, and multiple sources of data that they have. But essentially, we want to also are also focused on, alongside all the other products that are available on Cloud Pak for Data, Informix is one of that, and making continuous improvements in terms of security, in terms of better integration with the Cloud Pak for Data platform, with some of the other services that run within that platform. So that's been our focus as well. Um, and 2022 is again in addition to making continuous improvements to the core engine, Cloud Pak for Data is also evolving as a platform. So very recently, last month, the 4.5, which is one of the major releases of Cloud Pak for Data, came out. But we were very tightly coupled with that team to make sure that Informix as a cartridge and as a product that you can use within that platform also gets quickly updated. So again, improvements across the board: security, storage, usability, what have you. And then 2023 is where we're looking at Informix V next. So we currently are in the planning stage. I'll talk about it in some of the slides that are coming up. But essentially, it's a collaborative approach that we are taking. As I said, we are looked at the request for enhancements that our end users and customers keep posting, and the way that we've come up with what needs to be built into vNext is focusing on what are some of the features and functionalities that have been ranked as the top that customers want to see or end users want to see. But in addition, also, there are certain functionalities maybe which haven't been ranked top of the table, but still they move the needle in terms of being a significant improvement. So that is something. So both those combined is something that's driving us in terms of focusing on what we plan for what goes into the next major release. Um, and those through three themes, kind of there's a big list of RFEs that we have, but based on the categorizing of those are the three themes that we are focused on, where Informix Unchained focuses on the improvements in the core engine, delight the customer, focuses on how do we make the product more simple and easy to use from an administration perspective as well. And Modernize obviously continues to be focused on containerizing Cloud Pak for data and all of that good stuff. Um, having said all of this, obviously one of the things that you always want to do is make sure that what's good with the product that's propagated to everything that we're working on in the future as well. So the four pillars essentially from the big four, right, in terms of making sure that if we are able to process millions of transactions today, that is something that continuously gets built into the improvements that we do. If you have to scale up in terms of concurrent users, that's there, making sure that the core perform the you're optimizing and getting as much performance from the cores that you have, so that's there as well. Improvements in terms of HADR or enterprise replication, to make sure that customers get what they expect in terms of business continuity in case there are failure events, so that there's minimal downtime, minimal to no downtime. That's always been the focus. As I said, continuous focus on the embedded use case. So companies out there want to use a database product that is autonomous. They set it up, and with minimal manual intervention, they're able to run it successfully. So that continues to be one of the focus areas as well. And then lastly, also making sure that we are if it's going to be a hybrid cloud world, which it is going to be, what are some of the things that we are doing in terms of making sure that overall TCO is catered to, security standards are catered to, and it's easier for customers to, if they want to run in a hybrid cloud environment or maybe take their on-prem deployments to the cloud, how can they easily do that? uh, Next, I'd like to focus on a quick slide on the roadmap itself. Some of the things that we've been working on this year. Now I got this. If you have attended one of these roadmap sessions earlier this year, we you would have seen a different. Um, uh, you would have seen a little different content. Hopefully, if this slide kind of is provides you, if you've attended one of these sessions before. But the point I'm trying to make is, it had 2021 items mentioned in there. We got this updated for the 2022, to reflect what we have been working on and what's being planned. So really, it's if the way I look at this slide, and I want you to look at it as well, is three major areas. So Informix core releases is where we're focused on making improvements to the core engine. So if you're running Informix standalone today, what improvements we have worked on and we continues to work on, is what that talks about. Informix Cartridge on Cloud Pak for data. I'll talk about it in the slides that are coming up. But essentially, it's a entitlement packaging. It's a packaging that we have essentially that provides you the flexibility to keep running Informix business as usual. So if you have deployed it as standalone on bare metal servers or VMs, you can continue to do that. But if you also choose to maybe sometime in the future want to run it as a containerized product, then the cartridge packaging helps you to do that, and I'll spend some time talking about it in the slides that come up. But in terms of what we've been working on is, as I said, right, very recently on 29th June last month, Cloud Pak 4 Data 4.5, which is a major release of the platform that came out, and several of and we had a set agenda in terms of, the platform had requirements for every product that is part of that platform to make sure that it gets updated, not only in terms of security but also in terms of integration, overall, and that the end goal being overall reduction of TCO if someone chooses to run that platform and Informix on that platform. So that's something that we worked on aggressively to get Informix updated alongside, DB2 and all of the other products that we have on there. 4.6, Cloud Pak for Data is coming up in November. So right now our heads are focused on that as well. It's going to be a minor release, but yes, we are focused on making sure that Informix as a product gets updated. So if you choose to adopt that platform at some point in time, you'll be running the latest and greatest for Informix in there. And then going into next year, as we're focused on overall the core engine and vNext, that will also logically flow into having Informix ready and updated on the Cloud Pak for Data, whatever major release that comes up. So that goes in parallel, and that's what we're working on. The third and the bottom side of it talks about containerizing Informix. Not necessarily, if you are someone who um, is not looking at running it on a Red Hat OpenShift platform. So we are also looking at what are some of the other OpenShift or container platforms that we can run Informix on. So that's where we are focused on when we talk about Informix containerization, the bottom piece of the slide. And also looking like in terms of AWS, AWS, Azure, and GCP are some of the are the top three cloud platforms that customers are using. AWS having the major lion's share of it. So we are currently looking at that in terms of making sure that if you are someone who wants to take Informix today and deploy that on AWS, how do we do that, and be that a fully managed service versus a self-managed. Self-managed, I would definitely say that today, if you have Informix entitlements, and if you want to deploy those on AWS, you can definitely do that. IBM provides the bring your own license policy, where if you have the product, you can choose the infrastructure in terms of, if you want to run it on AWS, and deploy Informix there using the BYOL policy. BYOL being bring your own license. So overall, essentially, right, as just to recap, do a quick recap on this. Three things, right? Making continuous improvements to the core engine, making sure that Informix as a product is continuously being supported and updated on Cloud Pak for Data. And the third thing is, helping you run the product as a containerized product on some of the other platforms, including deployments on some of the prevalent cloud platforms out there. Um, Next, I want to focus on 14.10, as I said, the latest and greatest that we have today out there. Um, like to again say this, that we want, and we definitely encourage customers who, if they are using previous versions of Informix, be that 12.10, 11.5, 11.7, what have you, there's significant improvements moving to 14.10, and we obviously, as a product team and as an IBM and HCL team, want customers to move to 14.10, experience some of these benefits. But essentially, to have a snapshot of what are different areas where we build these enhancements. Faster performance in terms of making sure that the load on primary is reduced, and backups on secondary, all of those things which help increase performance on the primary server is what we've looked at. Security in terms of, and there's actually a slide next where we talk about it in a bit of detail. But security in terms of non-root installs, we have added support to TLS 1.3 now, so that's definitely built into 14.10. Um, there's auditing enhancements as well. I know there's a session right after this that talks about auditing. But support for audit to syslog facility, that's also now baked into 14.10. Continuity from a business continuity perspective, again, as I spoke about earlier, is allowing backups on RSS, where your copy of the data also resides on the secondary, thereby reducing load on the primary, so that when it comes to throughput performance on the primary, you get the most out of it, and are able to benefit from that. In terms of increased performance itself, we've also done improvements to enterprise replication, including ER sync. Now you also have non-blocking checkpoints for HDR that you can set up, so that if a log from primary goes into secondary, that log, as the checkpoints processing is happening, that log that goes from the primary to the secondary is handled in the staging area. So there's improvements there as well. And then from a new core capabilities perspective, right? Mix of page sizes that you can now do. We've done enhancements in terms of reverse index scans, so that if you want to troubleshoot, there are enhancements in there that allows you to do it. uh, in terms of improved visibility for read aheads, that's also available in 14.10. And there's much more, right? As I said, there's a and if the group so chooses to do so, we can definitely do a separate deep dive technical session where and that is just focused on 14.10, where we can talk about some of these enhancements across these broader areas, and walk the audience through that. One thing that I'd definitely like to mention is at the top of the slide. I think it does say XC6 to XC8, but yes, I think that is something that I need to get updated. It should say XC1 to XC8, because all of these are enhancements that we've built, increasingly. The current being XC8 right now. And XC9 is going to be a fixed pack release that we're working um, towards October this year. So you'll see more improvements coming up. 14, so the V next. So really, I mean, where our heads are at this point in time, as I said earlier when I started presenting this, is we're taking a collaborative approach. Definitely looking at the RFEs that end users and customers have been submitting. And this predates me, right? I joined the team earlier this year, but the previous product manager and the HCL team, they were focused on looking at those RFEs, looking at what is being ranked higher, looking at also functionalities where what moves the needle, so to speak, right? So all of those things combined together is what we've looked at and grouped it under three themes. These three themes being Informix Unchained, Delight the Client, and Modernize. Informix Unchained is where we're looking at making improvements to the core engine. Delight the Client is, as I said, making it easier from an administration perspective and usability perspective. And then from a modernization perspective, not only is it about global language support, but also things like Cloud Pak for data, where we are focused on where how do you make, if you're running it on a Cloud Pak for data as containers, how do you bring in more enhancements in terms of the operators that we have that help automate some of the tasks that are associated with the database, so that the the application developers and all of the dev team is focused on what they should be, which is developing application, not worrying about getting into the weeds with the database itself, and dealing with that. But yes, Informix Unchained, again, just to quickly do a run through with that, enhancements to the core engine. So, quite often one of the RFEs that does come up is, as requirements grow and you're running larger environments, there's quickly challenges that you run in terms of the limits that are baked into the Informix product. So we are looking at expanding and eliminating some of those limits. Again, as I said earlier, continuously focused on how do we make sure that throughput on primary is further improved by strengthening and making enabling secondary and making it much more capable. Um, Alter database is something Scott would be able to speak uh, a bit more detail about it, but that is something that came up, and we are taking a look at that as well. And I understand that is something that the field has been asking for. Um, from a admin perspective, making improvements to usability, so point and click setup for both time series, creating clusters, improving external tables ease of use. You can append data for the tables that you're already running. In terms of troubleshooting, if you want to obtain a query plan, we're also focused on how do you bring that, ensure minimal latency as you're going about doing it. So these are some of the things that, as I said, after looking at the RFE, is where we are focused on and planning to bring to V next. In terms of timeline, we're right now looking at a Q1 2023. That's what we are working towards. But yes, we'll update if everyone if anything changes. Um, so that was about in terms of a roadmap, right? But I definitely want to now speak about modernization. Modernization in terms of as I spoke earlier, clients are going to be running in a hybrid world. But some of the things that we are seeing within the space of modernization essentially is one is there's legacy infrastructure that is a challenge that end users are dealing with. There's increasingly the adoption of hybrid and multi-cloud environments, and eventually, also running in containerized products or containerized software. So these are the three things that we are seeing, and how looking at this, then thinking about what can we do as a product to make sure that we are set up to cater to these challenges and these requirements that we are seeing. As I said, for Cloud Pak for Data, before I get into the Informix cartridge itself, Cloud Pak for Data, just as a quick recap, if some of the people in the audience are not already aware about it, is the data platform that IBM has, where it allows you to deploy it on-prem or any cloud provider of your choice. Then we kind of have three different layers that sit on top of it. You have the collect layer, where typically the database products sit, including DB2 and Informix. The organize help you to, once you have collected that data, to kind of tidy that data up so that it can be used for further analysis. And then all the AI functionalities that sits on top of it as a layer, just to make sure that you're able to derive as much insights from the different kinds of data that you're collecting. Informix, very happy to inform you, is that it's already there. The reason we call it a cartridge, it's just a name that IBM as a company has come up with, but you'll have multiple different services. So you would have a DB2 cartridge, you would have a Watson cartridge, some of these services that are in there that are part of that platform. But essentially, Informix as well is available there today as a cartridge. Again, just to revise on what I said earlier, cartridge is just a way of packaging. So what that means is, as you can see on the screen, what you get is a shared entitlement. And what that means in simple terms is, once you buy a cartridge, you can choose to run Informix standalone as you're doing business as usual, nothing changes there. But if you so choose to, think about containerizing it at some point, again, there's no deadline, it's do it at your convenience. Then it bakes in the packaging bakes in the required services, which we call foundational services, as well as the restricted OpenShift licenses that we have, where it allows you to start working towards containerizing the product. So think of it as a package that provides you this flexibility to either choose to run Informix standalone business as usual, as I said, or containerize it at your convenience at some time in the near future. How do you get a cartridge? So there's a couple of ways, right? The modernization upgrade is specifically focused on existing users. So the prerequisite is your Informix. You already have Informix running within your environment, so you have entitlements to Informix standalone, and through the mod upgrade packaging that we have, This is typically done at the time of SNS renewal. If you so choose to do so midterm, that's still a possibility. But for the most part, we see it happening at the time of SNS renewals. But essentially, what the modernization upgrade provides you is the Informix cartridge that I showed you in the earlier slide. Plus, you get bonus entitlements for Cloud Pak for data that you can use towards some of the base services that are part of the catalog. And I'll show you on the next slide what those base services look like. So when I talk about base services, essentially, I'm talking about, this stack over here. So you get entitlement to Informix cartridge, but as an additional and bonus entitlements, and there's a set ratio of how much you get based on how much it's typically calculated on what you've been paying in terms of SNS in your existing Informix entitlements. But anyways, not getting into the weeds of it, essentially from a base services perspective, these are some of the services that you can use the bonus entitlements of Cloud Pak for data towards. So the net effect being, if you want to try out the Cloud Pak for data and some of the services, this modernization upgrade package allows you to do that. Again, the prerequisite is that you're an existing user in Formix, and that's when it applies. If you're a net new user, you can buy the cartridge uh, alone itself. So you're not eligible for the modernization upgrade package. You simply buy the Informix cartridge. And as I said, it's a shared entitlement. Run it as standalone or containerize it, and the cartridge itself has the foundational services that help you to do that. And again, this is at your convenience. There's no set deadline in terms of, this is by when you have to containerize. Nothing of that. Uh, why would someone pick an Informix container? Now, this is a very busy slide. I'm not going to go through all of it, but essentially, put it in simple terms, is one, you get all the benefits that come alongside Informix. That's part of the core engine, but also you get in addition, you also get the benefits of containers, right? So essentially, that's it. So things like, hybrid data ingestion, multimodal, resilience in terms of availability, analytics at scale, the security improvements in terms of the TLS 1.3 that we built in, and some of the others. All of that is already available with the container, um, but essentially giving you the benefits of both Informix as well as containerization. And that's what this is focused on. This one I and a special thanks to Karen from the HCL side, who's my Karen's my product management counterpart on the HCL. So special thanks to her for putting this one slide together. For the June 29 release of Cloud Pak for Data 4.5, we just wanted to quickly, capture a quick snapshot of what we work towards from an Informix perspective. So now, from three major areas, right? Security improvements, storage enhancements, and usability. So you now have access-based control, attributes-based access control, giving you more flexibility in terms of how you want to set it up. You have OCP 4.10 support, with OCP 4.10 being the current version. Now we support it. It includes default network policies to give you better control. Storage enhancements, cloud storage for AWS, EFS, and EBS, that's built in as well. Added support for the Cloud Pak for data storage classes. Now there's more tighter integration around that as well. And overall, from an usability perspective, easy to install and upgrade. Now it's also tied up with the licensing service. So if you have end users and customers looking to quickly get a snapshot of that usage and generate that for audit purposes, then you're able to do that quickly and easily. And again, from a diagnostic perspective as well, there's functionalities that are built in that helps you to do that. And that is really what I wanted to take all of us today. Hopefully, and I know there've been Q&As going on. Scott, thanks so much for taking all the questions. But yes, essentially, Tom, I think back to you. This is what I want to present. Hopefully, um, this is something that uh, people are here who weren't aware of what's been worked on, and this roadmap presentation gives you a fair bit of idea of what we worked on, what's been worked on, and what's lined up for for the future. There's definitely one thing that I do wanted to ask, and the audience can respond as a yes and no. And I think, yeah, exactly, Scott. That is what I was planning to ask. Uh, a simple yes and no is what we just wanted to get a quick count on. Would that be something that would be of interest? Essentially, the question being, do we need to build a 32-bit CSDK for the 14.10? Today we only have a 64-bit, but we were meeting a couple of weeks ago and looking at should we do a 32-bit, and we wanted to get some feedback from the end users. But Tom, that's it from my end.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I'm going through the list here. Does anyone there a fair amount of back and forth in the chat? Um, does anyone have any follow-up questions? I apologize, I'm going through it now. About the roadmap or upcoming that we wish to ask right now?
And one thing, just wanted to mention
Yeah.
one real quick thing, will be I'll be sharing the presentation as well. So definitely, if there's any follow-up questions after the session, feel free to reach out. The presentation will have uh, e- email addresses for me, Scott, as well as my Karen, who's my product management counterpart at HCL. But yeah, definitely more than happy to answer if any follow-up questions that come up after the session.
All right. Really appreciate it. Think all of the questions right now are back and forth in chat. So actually, no, there's a question from Paul. So I'm looking for the exact question here to figure out the. Oh, will the ER sync improvements increase the performance going to version 14 if you're already on 12?
Yes, the short answer is yes. And Scott, if you um, if you want to chime in, I think Tom, you will have to um,
Yeah.
enable his permission to unmute. Um, but I definitely like Scott to answer from a technical perspective in terms of the improvements.
All right.
Okay,
I just
so
unmuted Scott.
no, I was talking to myself here. I was having a wonderful conversation. The answer is I have to get back to you on that because Paul's question is the reverse, going from 14 to 12. Since we made an awful lot of architecture improvements on the 14 portion of it, I need to find out whether or not the reverse will work as well, going from 14 to 12. So
Okay.
the answer is I need to get an answer. Sorry, Shrif.
No, no, all good. I think, yeah, sorry, my understanding was also going from 12 to 14, but yeah, going from 14.10, we will get back on that, Paul.
Okay, great. Anyone else have any other questions? All right, I am not seeing any. If anyone has general questions, let us know, and we can always circle back. We got a while on the meeting.
Yeah, and just one last thing. Thank you again, everyone, for presenting me the opportunity to present. I know I used the word present two times there, but also a big shout out to both Scott and Karen, who both are on the call, for helping me, update the our roadmap and be uh, making me. So I've recently joined the team earlier this year, so it's always good to work with both of these and many others in the team, to be able to be up to speed. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for this and the update. Um, so